and welcome to this week's episode of Think Tank Thursday. I'm Denise Killian, and I'm thrilled to be with you for today's episode. Before we get going, though, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for 2025. We appreciate their support, which helps us offer you a new episode each and every week. Well, of course, you know that on Thursdays, we like to take just a little bit of time away from the doing and spend a little bit of time thinking. And today, we're going to be talking about those dreaded staff meetings and managers meetings. Let's be honest, we all dread them, whether we're running them or participating in them, but we don't have to. Today, we're going to be talking with Kevin Kochman of Semnox about how you can make your meetings more impactful and even a little bit of fun. So let's hear what Kevin has to say. Kevin, welcome back to Think Tank Thursday.
Thank you very much, Denise.
Well, listen, we're thrilled to have you, and I'm especially excited to talk about this topic, the dreaded meeting that everybody doesn't look forward to. So we're going to talk about how to make them more effective and how to make them a little bit even, shall we say, fun. So before we get started, Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what you do for Semnox?
Yep, sure. My name's Kevin Kochman. I am 67 years young, and I've spent about 35 years in the entertainment industry, primarily restaurant business and family entertainment center business. And currently, I am a sales partner with Semnox POS Solutions.
Excellent, excellent. So in all of that time, I imagine you have been to your fair share of meetings.
Yes, I have conducted a lot of meetings as a general manager, as a manager of management training. I've done thousands of meetings.
So first I want to ask you, oftentimes, there's the meme, this could have been an email, this meeting could have been an email, right? Meetings tend to be something that we all know need to happen, but really we struggle sometimes with making them effective. Often, Lord knows I've been to plenty of meetings where I was dreading going to it and sitting through it. I've led meetings where I didn't even want to lead it. So it is something that unfortunately we all kind of have to deal with, but we don't have to suffer through it. So that's what we're going to talk about today is how to make those meetings more effective. And, first off, I guess the big question is, should meetings be just an information dump? Or should they be something else?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was a young, inexperienced GM, I was very much a head buffalo, and I expected the herd to follow my every wish and command. And I found out that that's not a very effective way to lead a meeting. So there's the head buffalo way, but then there is the head geese way, which is everybody takes a turn, everybody participates in leadership, everybody's got something to contribute.
So, okay, I kind of love this head buffalo versus a geese. When geese fly in formation, they take turns being at the tip of that flight pattern. So that's interesting, thinking about conducting meetings so that it's not just the one person, but the entire group of people.
Everybody contributes, exactly. Everybody plays a role. And just like in a flock of geese, when one geese gets injured or a different role comes up where a different goose is required, then they just change places. And that way the entire team contributes to their success.
So really, this concept really means that everybody in that meeting has a specific role or a specific part of the meeting that they're responsible for?
Exactly. Everybody contributes, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But there is an agenda that each manager fills out, and it's their participation, it's their contribution to the meeting. And there are thousands of videos out there about how to conduct effective meetings. And there's the old standby suggestions like start on time, send out agendas prior to the meeting, everybody contributes, make sure that the meeting stays on time, summarize your action steps, and then send a recap of the meeting out. So there's all kind of videos about that. But what's not out there is something for the family entertainment business, because our business model is quite complex. You have food and beverage, you've got attractions, you've got arcade games, you've got rock climbing, you've got all of these different elements to the business. And there's a lot to cover in a 1 hour and a half meeting. So I think using a specially designed agenda for family entertainment, I think would go a long way into making these meetings much more effective.
So, Kevin, it's funny that you say that because at Train Entertainment, we actually do have, in fact, an entire book about this called Fun Training Serious Results. And it includes an agenda and it includes different training that you can do throughout the year or throughout a 6-month period. And one of the things that is very important that I think people forget about when they have a meeting, they think of it as an agenda that is just an information dump. I'm just going to give a bunch of information and then everybody should go out and do it. But meetings can also be, and something that at Train Entertainment we encourage and want people to do is to include training within each of the meetings. And, identifying one thing that you want everybody to focus on, whether that's paying attention to the upkeep of the facility, right? Whether that is having that bright smile and customer service heart of service to others and paying attention and those sorts of things. How important can training be in developing your staff?
Well, I used to look at manager meetings as my way of informing managers where we're doing well, where we're not doing well, where they're not doing well, maybe guest complaints that we've gotten. So I took almost the entire meeting time of just kind of dumping all of this information onto my managers. And they would walk away from the meeting, just kind of rolling their eyeballs and thinking, oh my gosh, I can't take another meeting like that. I eventually evolved into realizing that manager meetings really should be used as a development tool to help your managers learn business acumen, learning how the business works, learning how they control a big part of the business results. And once I realized that, it kind of revolutionized how we did our manager meetings. So instead of me taking 45 minutes or an hour, I then began creating an agenda that the managers, each department head, we talked about department heads in a prior podcast, and it really comes into play here because you don't want to think of them as assistant managers. You want to think of them as executives, as department heads that own a big part of the P&L. And so I created an agenda that does that, where it holds the manager responsible to prepare this information before they come to the meeting. And then the role of the GM is to help facilitate what each department head is presenting. So it's a different paradigm. It's a different mindset.
So when you're doing that, sometimes meetings can stall out when people aren't engaged, when people aren't feeling like they should contribute or can contribute. Maybe they're shy, maybe they're young and aren't sure what their role is. How do you help develop that engagement within a meeting?
Yeah, so if you look at a typical agenda that I used to use, I have it broken out into different categories. I have it broken out by sales. What are your budgeted sales for your department? What were your actual sales? What was your cost of sales for your department for the past week or for the past month? What was your labor like? What's your employee turnover like? And so I created this agenda that takes them through. Think about if this was your own independent business, what would be all the things that would be important to you? All right, now let's walk through it and let's go through the numbers. What were your guest satisfaction scores? What were your employee sat scores like? What was your cost of sales like? Who's your top five, bottom five in terms of employee performance? And you help them fill out the agenda before the meeting. And then that way, when they come to the meeting, they're prepared. They know exactly what they need to say. They may not feel comfortable in how they say it, but that's where you coach them. And you use your own body language. You do a lot of positive affirmations, a lot of nodding, a lot of smiling, a lot of thumbs up. And the first few meetings might be a little bit rough, but what it does is it starts treating them like a department head, like an executive, and it makes them, I think, feel a lot more vested in the business and a lot more interested in seeing the business succeed.
I think a lot of times, one of the things that's really key that these meetings can be a key to is helping people see the bigger picture. So often, especially if you're a department head and let's say you're running the kitchen, you're only thinking about the kitchen. You're thinking about your cogs, you're thinking about your people. Are we turning food quick enough? Is the quality okay? How's my inventory looking? You're really focused in on that department. But when you have these meetings and information sharing, you get to see this is one part of the bigger pie, that this is one element, and see how the kitchen impacts operations and how operations impacts sales and how we all can kind of work together to uplift the business as a whole. And that without that information sharing, you're kind of left in your own silo.
Yeah, and the other thing that does, you bring up a great point. The other thing that does is it communicates to the other managers, here's how I want my department to run when I'm not here. So, for example, in my restaurant days, we would go through an entire week's worth of line checks and prep sheets and freezer pulls. These are all tools used in the kitchen. And we would go through and identify, okay, how did we do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? How did we do over the weekend? Did we complete all the line checks? And we would kind of grade ourselves because I knew that was important to the kitchen manager. And so it communicated to the other managers, hey, these things aren't done just when the kitchen manager's here. These things are done 14 shifts a week. So I want everybody to buy into how, John or Mary wants to run the kitchen. Same thing for the bar, same thing for the games manager. You want to teach other managers to have enough respect for each other so that everybody's managing the business the same way. And I'll give you a small example. Uniform standards. We want all the managers to enforce the same standards. But if John decides that jeans are okay, and Mary decides that, well, you don't have to wear a logo shirt, and Kevin decides, well, we don't need name tags today, now you've created inconsistencies. So another objective of these manager meetings is to align and agree, here's how we're going to manage the business. So it doesn't matter what shift you're on, and it doesn't matter what manager is working that day. We all manage the shifts the same exact way. And the more consistent you get, the better you get. And the better you get, the more sales you get. And the more sales you get, the more profit you get.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about adding a little fun to these meetings, right? The information is important, but there should also be an opportunity for uh, not just we're putting numbers up on a board or we're going through these big numbers. We should include that training as well that we want to focus on and want, as you pointed out, the entire facility to be focusing on, whether it is a customer service piece or whether it is a cleaning piece or whether it is we've identified that the more large souvenir cups we sell, that indicates better sales in the kitchen. So we're going to really focus on that, right? Whatever that one thing is that you want the entire team to focus on. But an opportunity additionally to make it, we know that people learn better and do better when they're in an environment that is welcoming and that they can have a little fun. We're in the fun business, right?
Exactly. And there's all kind of different things that you can do. You can do icebreakers. One of the things that I used to do is start off each meeting with a heart check. And that doesn't sound like fun, but it ends up being fun because what you're doing is you start seeing the personal side of your team. And so it's, how's your home life? How's your school life? How's your work life? How's your married life? The questions are endless, but it's all about, hey, how are you actually doing today? Another thing that you can do is to invite guests to your meeting. And sometimes I would invite staff to our manager meetings. And it might be some training ideas that the staff has, or I would invite my certified trainers to the meeting and kind of give an update on how we're doing on training and do we have all the training tools available. But I think getting personal and doing heart checks or doing icebreakers, maybe having some snacks as part of the meeting, but making each meeting a little bit different so that it's not always the same format. But you always use the agenda. That is, to me, one of the most important things is you use the agenda because the agenda is what's giving your meeting, structure, and it's giving it the rich content that you're after. Then the last part of the meeting is the GM part, where the GM now can kind of wrap everything up and talk about the week's numbers, talk about projects, ask for updates on existing projects, and then kind of setting the tone for the next coming week. And what are some highlights that we need to, whether it's group events or birthday parties, but what are the big rocks that are coming up in the next week? And then you're done. So it doesn't turn into this 2.5 hour, slog fest where the managers are just getting beat up. It's personal, it's interactive, it's team oriented. But you still get everything accomplished that you need to get accomplished. And it's not the GM being the head buffalo and just preaching for an hour and 45 minutes. It's everybody contributes because that's how business actually succeeds, is everybody plays a role. And again, in summary, use the meetings as a coaching tool, as a teaching tool, to help younger managers become the next GM. This is all about career progression and career pathing, right? It's all about how can I get my team to replace me so that I can then go on to my next big thing, right? So I think that's where manager meetings can play a real important role in the success of your business.
Of course, after this manager meeting, the expectation is certainly there's some information that stays within that manager meeting, but that they should be disseminating information and having similar meetings with their teams.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So it's important to, at the end of the meeting, everybody goes their way. Then as the GM, I would always send out a summary of key points, key action steps, key focuses, so that they could print that out and then share it with their team, during their daily alley rallies or shift meetings. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, Kevin. Before we run out of time, I wanted to take an opportunity. If people have questions or thoughts or any kind of comment, how can they get a hold of you, Kevin?
Yeah, sure. My name is Kevin Kochman, and my email is kevin.coachman@semnox.com. or you can reach me on my cell phone anytime at 940-945-7188.
So listen, Kevin, thank you so much for this insight and for these ideas. And I particularly love the buffalo versus geese idea. I think that's really something that'll stick with people and kind of make them rethink, oh yeah, I'm totally being the buffalo. How can I be more inclusive and get more people involved and have that geese style meetings? So thank you so much for your time today and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks so much, Denise.
Well, thank you so much to Kevin. And I know that there are so many opportunities for us to make those meetings better for everyone. So think about, I hope that inspires you to think about different icebreakers you can do, different things you can do to spice up your meetings, but more importantly, get more people engaged and involved in the process and therefore in your business. So thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you being here with us. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors for 2025. We couldn't do what we do, which is bring you Think Tank Thursday each and every week without their help. If you have an idea for Think Tank Thursday or would like to be a guest, I would love to hear from you. You can reach me at denise@trainertainment.net. And thanks again for tuning in today. We know that the journey to success is all about growth. And Trainertainment and the Growth Pro Group, well, we're here to committed to helping you and your company thrive. You can visit trainertainment.net to learn how we can support your growth journey for yourself, your team, or your business by setting up a free growth call with one of our coaches. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for the extraordinary.